For younger people like you, it has been challenging to buy things compared to people born a long time ago, like the baby boomers. Baby boomers are individuals born between 1946 and 1964. Many of them lived in a time when everything cost less. Houses, cars, and even education were more affordable. Sometimes we hear negative things about younger generations, such as being lazier or spending money on silly things like avocado toast. However, we have to say that this is not true for the majority. In 2022, when a person around the age of 33 wanted to buy a house, the average price in the United States was $433,100. That's a considerable amount of money, and the average family income was approximately $70,000 per year. If you took all the money you earn in a year and used it to buy a house, it would take you over 6 years and 2 months without spending a cent. Now let's compare this to the past when baby boomers were 33 years old in 1988. The average house price was $110,000, and the average income was around $27,000 per year. At that time, it took them about 4 years to earn enough money to buy a house. Some had higher incomes and could even buy a house with just 1 or 2 years of salary. You can see the difference. Newer generations are not less hardworking, and they don't spend money more irresponsibly. The reality is that house prices have increased significantly, making it very difficult for young people to buy a house. Historically, houses in the United States used to cost around 5 times the annual family income. During the real estate bubble between 2006 and 2008, that ratio rose to 7 times the income. But what's even more surprising is that it has gone even higher now, much higher than during the real estate bubble. In the UK, they have seen house prices steadily rising for the last 10 years, with ratios consistently above 7 and even recently reaching higher than 9. If you're British and watching this, I'm sorry. You're more messed up than the average American citizen. But hey, at least you have the NHS, right? I hope that gives you some comfort. Now, it's interesting to compare house prices with the average family income, the amount of money that families earn in a year. In the past, the average family income used to be above the housing price index, which was a good thing because it meant that house prices were more manageable in relation to family incomes. That was the case until 2005 when house prices started to skyrocket. However, when the real estate bubble burst in 2008, house prices dropped and became more affordable for a while. But for the past few years, house prices have been rising much faster than the average family income. This is not good, especially for the younger generation. In the UK, the situation is even worse. They have been dealing with this for a long time. But wait, there's another interesting data point to share. There's a chart showing inflation compared to home prices from 1970 to 2023. Inflation is the general increase in the prices of things over time. You can see that inflation has been steadily increasing, but what's even more surprising is how home prices have outpaced inflation. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, if in 1990 you spent $100,000 on a house, that would be equivalent to spending around $377,000 today due to daily living costs. Home prices have risen much faster than the prices of things in general. It's as if they're skyrocketing out of control. There are a couple of reasons for this, and they have to do with the number of people and how the world has changed. When boomers were young, there weren't as many people living in the United States as there are now. In the 1970s and 1980s, the population was much smaller. But in the last 3 decades, the population has increased significantly. This means that more people are looking for houses, creating more competition. It's also important to mention that boomers used to get married much earlier than now and had more than one income from a young age. This allowed them to earn more money and buy a house more easily. But now, younger generations are delaying marriage and staying single for much longer. According to a research center, more than 4 out of 10 millennials have not formed a family. This means that only 55% of millennials have done so. In contrast, in previous generations, that number was much higher, around 69% or even up to 85%. Another significant reason boomers could buy houses was that education was cheaper and student loans had lower costs. Nowadays, tuition fees in universities are extremely expensive. Attending a private or even a public university can cost between $30,000 and $50,000 per year. It's insane. Moreover, student debt in the United States amounts to $1.7 trillion, and over the last 30 years, from 1991 to 2021, average tuition prices have doubled. Additionally, the average spending on student loans upon graduation has tripled since the 90s, going from $10,000 to $30,000. Imagine having over $100,000 in student loan debt. Around 7% of people with student loans find themselves in that situation. The curious thing is that having a college degree is becoming increasingly less valuable. There are many other ways to make money and embark on entrepreneurship, especially in the online world. Of course, there are still very useful careers like medicine or law, but an increasing number of people are graduating with a college degree. This is interesting because the number of graduating students has increased by 250% since 1970, meaning there will be much more competition for jobs. If there are double or triple the number of people competing for the same jobs, employers can demand experience even for entry-level positions. When people finish university, they sometimes struggle to find a well-paying job. The average starting salary can be between $50,000 and $60,000 per year, but many graduates have difficulty earning that amount. This means that young people from Generation Z and Millennials are in a challenging situation compared to previous generations. They not only have fewer issues with student loan debt, but also have to deal with less money initially. They also face other problems like more expensive housing and the high cost of living. For example, gasoline costs much more now than when grandparents were young. Generation Z and Millennials have to pay up to 40% or 60% more for gasoline than baby boomers did in their 20s. One reason things are challenging nowadays is the monthly payments for an average car, which are $716, and the loan to pay for it lasts around 69 months. Considering that there is also a lot of credit card debt and other things people must pay, it is understandable that things are not as affordable as before. Additionally, other factors influence this situation. Social media and electronic devices distract us a lot and make us spend more money. It is easy to succumb to the temptation of buying things we don't need when we see ads or posts online. All of this together can be a problem, but not all is lost. If you want to own a home or be richer than previous generations, there are some things you can do. First, it's important to control your expenses and make sure you can pay for what you need. According to a report, 73% of millennials and 66% of Generation Z live from month to month, meaning they don't manage to save anything. If you plan to rent a house in the future, it is recommended that the rent does not exceed 30% of your total income. This rule is recommended to ensure that after paying the rent, you still have enough money to cover other important expenses like food, utilities, and healthcare. For example, if you earn $50,000 a year, you should try to spend around $1,250 on rent each month. However, this can be difficult to achieve in coastal cities like Boston, where housing prices are high. If you have to exceed the 30% limit, you must be very careful with other expenses, as you will have less margin to save and pay a mortgage in the future if you decide to buy a house. The 30% rule also applies when it comes to buying a car. If you are thinking of renting or financing a car, you must make sure that the monthly payments do not exceed 10% of your total income. This can be a challenge for many people, especially now that interest rates on car loans are very high. For example, if you're buying a new car, the interest rate on your loan could be between 8% and 13%, meaning you will end up paying much more money in interest during the term of the loan. If you have the possibility, it would be highly recommended to pay for your car in full instead of financing it. Additionally, it is important to make sure that your expenses in general are manageable. If you manage to reduce your expenses and save some money, it would be fantastic if you could invest it. Let's also put an example. Suppose you save $200 per month for 20 years, and every month you invest it in the S&P 500 through mutual funds or ETFs. The S&P 500 is a group formed by the 500 largest and most successful companies in the United States. In that group are Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, etc. It's like a pie divided into 500 pieces, and it's a representative sample of the economy. When you invest in the S&P 500, you're buying a piece of that pie. This means you're buying a little bit of each of the 500 companies in the group. It's like you're investing in all those companies at the same time. Why would someone want to do that? Well, investing in the S&P 500 allows you to have a diversified investment. This means your money is spread across many different companies instead of putting it all into one company. If one company isn't doing well, other companies may be successful and can compensate for it. Imagine you buy a slice of the pie, and suddenly one of the companies has problems. The value of that slice may drop a bit, but if the other companies are doing well, the total value of your investment can still grow. Additionally, the S&P 500 has proven to be a good indicator of long-term growth. Over the years, on average, it has had good performance. The average annual return from its creation in 1928 until December 31st, 2021 has been 11.82%. Continuing with the example, assuming we save $200 monthly and invest them in the S&P 500, which is $2,400 annually, and we do the same every year for 20 years with an annual return of 10%, which is below the average, we would have $167,300. This is the magic of compound interest. But there's something else you should consider to earn more money. One of the best ways to do it is to change jobs or look for different types of work. According to the Wall Street Journal, people who change jobs earn much more than those who stay in the same place. Imagine you have a friend who works for a technology company in Silicon Valley. He works there for 1 or 2 years and then changes to another company. Even though his job title is similar, his salary increases, and he repeats this process over and over. After 10 years, he usually has a much better position. He has learned more skills, and he is paid much more money. Sometimes it can be an increase of 10%, 20%, or even up to 30%. But wait, we're not telling you to leave a job that you really enjoy just for the money. If you feel you're not growing in your current job and have financial problems, you should definitely consider this option. In summary, the younger generation is in worse financial conditions than generations from 40, 50, or 70 years ago. It's because prices have risen a lot. Houses or university studies have increased a lot compared to what we earn. For example, before maybe we could buy a house with less money and much younger. Education is also more expensive. Going to university or taking specialization courses can cost a fortune. Sometimes parents have to go into debt to pay for it, and that can affect the opportunities for new generations in the future. Jobs don't pay as much. Although there are many jobs available, some don't pay enough to live comfortably. Many times nowadays, you have to work more hours or have several jobs to cover expenses. There's also a lack of stable employment. Unlike before when we could get a job and stay in it for a long time, now there are more job changes. It's not always easy to find stable employment, and that can create financial insecurity. Debt. Many young people have to go into a lot of debt to pay for university or buy necessary things like a car. Being in debt can be a heavy burden and make saving or investing for the future difficult. But not all is lost. There are things that can be done to improve the financial situation, saving and investing. Although it may seem difficult to save even a little each month, it can make a big difference in the long run. You can also learn about investment and how to make money grow. Seeking opportunities, taking advantage of education and training opportunities can open doors in the future. You shouldn't be afraid to explore different options and look for jobs that allow professional growth and earning more money. Being aware of spending is important. Learning to manage money and spend it wisely. You can set a budget and prioritize needs to avoid unnecessary debt. Finally, seeking support and advice, you don't have to face these challenges alone. You can seek help from parents, mentors, or financial advisors for guidance and learn more about how to handle money. Do you think the younger generation is in worse financial conditions than previous generations? I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a comment. Also, please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate it. Thanks.